Chapter 463, Still for 10 Years. Floating Blood Technique. This was a manual that dissected the universe space law's essence, demonstrating through the many blade forms. New N0VEL chapters are published on N0V/E/LB/IN/CO/M. Floating Blood's first book was a summary. The second to 109th book were training methods on the 108 wonders. The 110th book was a summary of the 108 forms. Dissecting the essence is incredibly difficult. The revolution of the universe laws, with its perfect form, as for its essence, it requires one to constantly dissect it. Even the March 1st pictures of the 9 universe tablet only displayed the 108 wonders, within those 108 drops of rain. These sort of complicated methods, I cannot function or dissect it. I can only use blade forms to fully explain these 108 wonders. Comprehension is incredibly difficult. And these 108 wonders, the September 1st are the easiest, the middle 27 are hard. The 27 plus the first 9 forms the second picture of the drizzling, the final 72 are the hardest. These 72 plus the earlier 36 form the perfect rainstorm. The September 1st, even though they are the easiest, unless one is an absolute genius with pinnacle comprehension and mental stability, it's extremely hard to train. Back then I studied in Primal Chaos City for 3,000 years before I finally created the Floating Blood. If it were in the actual universe, it would take at least 10,000 years. I have these 2 pieces of advice to the warriors in the future. 1. If you are in Primal Chaos City and you've trained for 20 years without comprehending the first blade form, give up on Floating Blood. Go learn from other paths and slowly comprehend them. This path doesn't suit you. 2. If you are in the actual universe and you've trained for 200 years without comprehending the first blade form, similar to above, just give up. These final 2 lines in the first book made Luo Feng frown. Yes. Before on the balcony, seeing the large amount of words left behind by Lien Luo saying he studied for 3,000 years, this meant that it took a total of 3,000 years of study for him to accomplish this. Studying in Primal Chaos City, one could look up to see the obvious universe laws revolve. Even though the efficiency was much higher, he still took that long. 20 years? Luo Feng said softly, revealing a smile. If one hasn't comprehended the first blade form in 20 years, give up on Floating Blood? Absolute genius? Absolute comprehension and mental stability? In terms of talent and comprehension, the Mosha clan clone is very capable. In terms of stability and mental state, maybe I'm weaker than my 2 brothers. However, at least I'm able to maintain absolute cold calmness. Luo Feng thought, talent, comprehension and mental state, these 3 should be considered pretty high. The talent of his earth body in the vast universe could be considered not bad, however it could never reach the absolute state of which Lien Luo spoke of in the manual. The Mosha clan body? That was the strong body? This was the ultimate assassin amongst countless races in the vast universe, the favored of space itself. In terms of talent, there wasn't one amongst the human race that could match up to the Mosha clan in terms of the space origin law. The Mosha clan training the space origin law had the fastest comprehension, that along with Luo Feng's mental state. The conditions were good. Primal Chaos City, the chaos energy revolved. On a particular balcony of this ancient city, Luo Feng stood, gazing into the distant city and the wasteland outside. Floating Blood technique is explained through blade forms. However, the blade forms can be swiftly trained in. Luo Feng pondered. The first book had many explanations of the blade forms. Through incredibly complex blade forms, allowing one to experience and finally comprehend the first wonder that was the core of the first blade form. Blade and saber, these were both close combat weapons. The blade emphasized on piercing. The saber emphasized on slashing. However, the illusionary saber that Luo Feng used forms from the blood illusionary forms. The entire length of the saber was 108 centimeters, the edge was 80 centimeters, and the width was 5.3 centimeters. It had some changes from the saber the one he used on Earth. Just from the appearance one could see that this one focused on piercing. There were a few other two-handed huge blades that were even more similar to a wild saber compared to Luo Feng's. Having used the golden illusionary saber for long, changing to a blade now wasn't too difficult. In terms of close combat talent, especially when using a blade, of my three bodies, there's no doubt the Moshe clan is the strongest. Luo Feng thought. Then, let's begin. Luo Feng sat crossed-legged, raising his head to look at the splits in the sky that had crystal threads and revolving origin laws. It was simply mesmerizing. Like the thousands and tens of thousands of warriors in Primal Chaos City, Luo Feng began to quietly study. The Primal Chaos spirits had beneficial effects on the soul. However, just like eating medicine, it lost its potency gradually as one consumed more. Luo Feng had hunted for over 8 months. Initially, the spirits made his soul constantly evolve, however, as it evolved more, the effects of the spirits diminished. Especially in the recent 2 months, the evolution itself became almost unnoticeable. That's right. If one could evolve limitlessly, then simply relying on the Primal Chaos spirits could make one's soul evolve to undying. It was a pity there was no such good thing. No wonder they all simply sit and quietly study. Only newcomers would head outside the city to hunt. So, to many domain lords and sector lords, they've already had their fill of the Primal Chaos spirits. It's no wonder there are still so many surviving beasts outside the city. Luo Feng sat on the balcony, looking up at the origin laws revolving about, experiencing it. Within his internal world, the Moshe clan body had taken the form of a black-clothed Luo Feng, wielding the dark red blade. This blade was something Babata had created from using several machines and alloys within his storage space. With no special properties, it was a very simple alloy blade, completely fulfilling the conditions of the floating blood manual. Chi. 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 Within the black-clothed Luo Feng, the 10,081 surfaced life crystal had incredibly complex golden engravings on them all. These glowing engravings gave off a resonance and ripple with the universe space itself. So, over 1,000 images appeared. The blade form was magnificent. The Moshe clan was naturally apt at using close combat weapons, especially blade forms that were infused with the space origin laws. It was suited for such skills. Not right. It should be this way. Yes, very good. The black-clothed Luo Feng and Luo Feng himself shared the same soul. The two naturally viewed the space splits and the universe origin laws revolving together, experiencing it and unleashing the blade forms. Luo Feng's earth body himself would occasionally reflect against the 9 universe tablet and the manual within the virtual universe. Time flowed, days passed. Even though Luo Feng had passed the first level of the heavenly bridge and received yet another chance to study the tablet, he was in no rush to go immediately. According to the explanation within the floating blood manual, every chance to study had to be grasped and treasured. One couldn't waste time within. One first had to completely understand and comprehend everything from before, and continue pondering and studying. Only when they left with a large amount of questions and doubts again should they go see the tablet once more. As one would ponder for a long time, with large amounts of questions, going to see the tablet would easily answer much of it, understanding more from before. This way, the efficiency was high. After all, the chances to study the 9 Universe tablet were limited. China 2075 June 9, Luo Feng acquired the Floating Blood Manual and began his training in Primal Chaos City. Year 2075 September, Gu Si Luo passed the first level on the bridge, and after a few days, Long Yun too passed the first level. Year 76 January, Luo Feng entered the city leader's residence and began to study the tablet again. He spent 7 days, constantly comprehending answers to his questions about the first blade form in his mind, and even feeling something special. The 9 Universe tablet was completely for bringing one into the space origin law itself. Year 76 to 77, the Mancha Prince Wuka, Qian Shui of the Genius siblings, many from the absolute beginning had all passed the first level. Even though it seemed like Wuka, Qian Shui and the others were slow. In truth, the time in the primal universe flowed slower. China had seen 3 years gone by, and yet in Primal Chaos City, only one had passed. In truth, Wuka, Qian Shui and the others weren't slower than Luo Feng by even a year. During the 2nd and 3rd year in Primal Chaos City, the Heaven and Ground region, the last phase region's geniuses began to all pass through the first level. This batch of 1,000 geniuses, with only a bit over 800 survivors, the last to pass the first level was during the end of the 4th year. Within Primal Chaos City, the other geniuses began to liven up, all heading out frequently and later realizing the effects diminishing. Everybody slowly began to stop heading out to hunt the beasts, only occasionally heading out to use them as test subjects for their comprehension. Everyone spent their time sitting on the balconies. In the actual universe, China year 2082 August, Luo Feng's older son Luo Ping had married and had a child in the same year. After all, during the base era, many usually married at the age of 19, and this year, Luo Ping was already 22. Luo Feng was speechless. He had already become a grandfather? Year 86, Earth's bases began to expand, as it had already been over 20 years since the swallowing beast incident. Over these 20 years, with the Earth's upper echelon not controlling the masses and birth, many were encouraged to have more children. Since humanity at risk before, it was better to have more children. However, now, after Earth began to interact more with the universe, discovering how vast it was with trillions of other races, Earth's humans were simply too little. Naturally they wouldn't control them. And with technology advancing at an extreme rate, feeding and housing everybody became a much easier thing to do. Year 88, Earth's humans, they occupied more territory. The humans of Earth also got stronger and stronger. In truth, the reason behind why they never fully killed all the wild beasts, to the Earth humans, they were the perfect training ground for the fighters. Year 89, Luo Feng's smaller son Luo Hai began to enter the universe to explore. His older son Luo Ping was more steady. However, Luo Hai worshipped his father and headed into the universe to explore. Luo Feng couldn't help it. He could only arrange for him to enter the Gonwu Dojo. Year 92, Earth's humans, in the Pacific, Indian Ocean and many other oceans, a few large constructed cities on islands were built. This represented the humans of Earth finally entering the sea areas. Year 99, the expedition to Mars began. Of course, the most stunning thing for Luo Feng was China year 2103, his own grandson, also Luo Ping's son from before his marriage, also got married. My God! If this kept going, his time in Primal Chaos City was over 30 years. The actual universe time was over 100 years. 100 years, he feared that his own great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren would have been born by then. No wonder these ancient beings, after trillions of years, have trillions in their imperial family. This multiplication is indeed too fast. Luo Feng was helpless. And when 30 years had passed on Earth, only 10 years had passed in Primal Chaos City. Earth had huge transformations. And in the distant ancient Primal Chaos City, Luo Feng had quietly sat there for 10 years.